What's going on, guys? Spikezillion here. And I know I don't normally have the webcam, but I'm going to start doing it a little bit more often because I want to try to get a little bit more comfortable with you guys, with having me on camera as much as possible. And anyway, with that being said, I want to talk about Harpy Snake Eyes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is my second time doing this video because I recorded for about an hour straight worth of content, and I realized I'm not recording my microphone, so I had no audio. So that was really nice. So this time we're gonna actually, use my voice and make sure that the audio is working, and it looks like it's working. So it's a Christmas miracle. I can actually talk about the deck. Anyway, I know this has been a long time coming. I know a lot of people were kind of waiting on this deck, and there was a couple reasons why I wanted to wait. The first reason is I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I probably won't pay for this deck in real life. I can't lie. I don't want to support how fucking ridiculously expensive this deck is. Not really interested in buying the Snake Eye package in real life in TCG. So I ended up doing it in Master Duel. So most of my experience is going to be through Master Duel. So I understand that most people are going to see that and be frustrated. But that being said, I think Master Duel is a good teaching tool to an extent, and I should be able to get you through all the combos and different routes, even without Max C in the game, because Max C doesn't seem to do much for me. It seems throughout the past couple weeks or whatever time it's been I've had this deck. But yeah, anywho, we're going to talk about the card by card first, as per usual. I will first say that I'm going to talk about the Harpies, like the ratios, and a little bit about the reasons why I have the ratios that we have. I'm not going to talk about the cards individually. For that, I would highly recommend checking out my guide on all the Harpie cards, because I think I have a guide for every single card on screen except for Hysteric. Or sorry, no. What am I talking about? Egotist, Hunting Ground, and I think no, Harpist I have now. So yeah, everything on screen except for Egotist and Hunting Ground. I have a video for every single. Oh, and Featherstorm. But that's okay. I think most of you know what this card does, so it's fine. So that being said, if you want to hear about what these Harpie cards do before we go into the combo stuff, I would highly recommend checking out my playlist that's in my YouTube channel. I also attempt to leave a link in the description if I remember to do that. But with that being said, let's talk about the card by card. So for the Harpies, I have 3 Channeler, and that's because she's probably the best possible Harpie monster when it comes to dual archetype stuff. You really like to be able to normal summon her. I have 1 Perfumer. A lot of decks will like to play 3 Perfumer, especially some dual archetype builds. The reason I'm going with 1 is because she doesn't come up that often, and we don't often recur Egotist in this deck because Hysteric Sign tends to be discarded from hand. We'll get to that later with the Bellstar. But she is here strictly for the every once in a while when I need to add her from Harpist effect and want to normal summon her to get Egotist and then Special Lady 1. Basically, have 2 level 4s. Or the other rare occasion where I will go from Channeler effect, discard a Harpie for cost, Special Perfumer, and then get a 3rd Harpie on board. Which sometimes can happen, and it's sometimes worth it, especially if I have Featherstorm in hand and I want to make an Xyz monster or something, or I want to link to. That is a really good way of getting around those situations. Anyway, yeah, so just 1 Perfumer. 1 Harpist, because she also doesn't come up all that often. Most of the time I get her through Pet Dragon effect. When I link Pet Dragon off, for example, it'll go effect to dump a Harpie, so you dump Harpist, and then an in-phase Harpist will search to a Channeler or a Perfumer. Then we have 2 Lady 1, because you only play 1 Egotist, and it doesn't recur that often. And you also don't want to draw it, because it's a pretty big brick if you draw it. So typically you want to see it in deck as much as possible. But you also want to be careful because Egotist can only special summon Lady 1 out of all the Harpie cards here. So you kind of need 2 to like kind of keep the consistency up some extent for Egotist, but not enough to draw it, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's that. And then Pet Dragon is here. Obviously, Pet Dragon's really good. The reason I only play 2, though, is kind of similar reason to Lady 1. I don't want to draw it all the time, but it's not a terrible draw either. You can special summon it through other means other than Channeler. For example, if I normal Droll and Lockbird, I can special Pet Dragon and then use those 2 to make Cyber Slash. Since Cyber Slash can use any Harpie monster as a tuner, so you can use the Pet Dragon as your tuner in this case. And then she's a hard once per turn when you can monster bounce effect, basically, which is pretty useful in a lot of ways. In fact, it's actually pretty good against this deck because I can chain it to my Temple effect if I end up using Temple like your opponent normal or special summons. You just activate Temple and then you chain Cyber Slash. Again, it's a when you can, so you gotta be really careful about that. But yeah, anyway, that is that. Pet Dragon is pretty useful for that. Other than that, obviously it makes Channeler level 7, so then we can do rank 7 plays, which we have a couple down here. We have 3 cards down here, actually. Anyway, that's all the Harpie monsters. And then for back row Harpie-wise, we have Elegant Egotist, which is a not once per turn special summon Harpie Lady from deck if the Harpie Lady's on field. We have Feather Duster, which is searchable off Featherstorm. Featherstorm is basically a turn skip on your opponent's turn, or it negates all their hand traps effectively, or some of their Omni negates on their turn, or on our turn. If they activate, then we chain Featherstorm, and then they will be negated. So it's pretty useful. And then for the rest of the turn, all monster effects that your opponent activates are negated effectively. And because we control Harpie monsters, we can activate this card from our hand as well if we wanted to. So that's pretty nice. We have 3 Hysteric Sign because we want to discard this off of the Bellstar's effect, which it's not a discard technically, but it sends a card from hand or field to graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, which is incredibly useful. And then it lets you set a Snake Eye spell or trap. In this case, we're always sending original. We'll get to the combo in a bit, but for now, that is all you really need to know is you want to send Sign with the Bellstar as much as you possibly can. Hunting Ground is here just in case. It doesn't come up all that often, but you never know if you end up popping Hysteric Sign through Hunting Ground, which is another way to pop Sign if you really need an extra way to do it to search Featherstorm. Because in the end phase, if this card is sent to the graveyard this turn from the hand or field, you can add up to 3 Harpie cards with different names from each other from your deck to your hand. So during the end phase, right? So you get Featherstorm at the end phase, which is pretty great. So if you have a Harpie on field, you just Featherstorm, you turn skip your opponent, and you basically win. So that's pretty great, right? Yeah, so that's it for Harpie cards in general here. We have 1-for-1, which is a generic spell. This is for the baby Snake Eyes. Basically, you send a monster from your hand to the graveyard and special summon a level 1 monster from your hand or deck. So obviously, if you can discard Harpist, that's a good option. You can also discard like a Flamberge or something, for example. But yeah, typically you just send any monster to get your babies, and this is an extension if your opponent interrupts you effectively. We also have Small World. Now you might be wondering why Small World is in this deck, and this is where it gets really spicy. It turns out that if you take any card, let's say you have Ash Blossom in your hand, and then you bridge it with Droll and Lockbird in your deck. So Droll and Lockbird is your second card for Small World. This card happens to go and bridge into any card, any monster card in this entire deck, except for Flamberge. So it connects to Diabolstar because they're both spellcasters. It connects to Ash because of 0 attack. It connects to all the baby Snake Eyes except for Birch because of level 1. Birch also has 0 attacks, so that's why it doesn't work. Flamberge just doesn't work in general. And then all the Harpie cards it also works with because they're all wind. So, pretty phenomenal fucking card if I do say so myself. We'll show you it a bit later with Small World. But yeah, this card is not only a great hand trap, but it's super clutch in my deck for Small World plays. That's pretty great. And Small World does come up fairly frequently, which is pretty awesome. It just fixes your hand quite a bit. So it's one of the most underutilized cards in my opinion, especially in recent formats. Anyway, let's talk about the hand traps while we're here. We have 3 Ash Blossom and 3 Droll and Lockbird. I don't really need more than that, to be honest. I mean, I could put Imperm in here, but to be honest, I feel like Imperm's not really good this format. It's not that it's bad. It's just, like, it's less good than it was last format. I like these 2 hand traps. They do a decent amount of work for what I need them to do. Like, I think Brandon's a bad matchup, and Labyrinth, it kind of stops both of their plays for the most part. Droll is good for just about everything else. The only thing, obviously, it doesn't do super great with is Snake Eyes. But if I fight other Snake Eyes, it typically doesn't matter unless they have the Barone variant. If I fight the Barone variant, it's a lot more difficult for me to fight them. But if it's the Link variant, I typically do just fine going second. Especially if a Harpie card and Featherstorm is in my hand, because then I basically just win. Most of their interruption is not back row heavy, unless they're playing the trap. But, like, no one's really playing it, to be honest. There's a couple people that are, but not very often. So anyway, yeah, these 2 have been doing a lot of work for me, so it's been pretty great. And then obviously Master Duel Max C, but that's a whole other conversation. Anyway, let's talk about the Diabellstar package here, and of course all the Snake Eyes. So we'll start with Diabellstar herself. So, like I said, you would send a card from hand to graveyard or field to graveyard and special summon this card from your hand. And then it has hard once per turn effects, where if you normal or special summon it, you can set a Sinful Spoils follow trap directly from your deck. And then also during your opponent's turn, if this card is sent from its owner's hand or field to the graveyard, you can send a card from your hand or field to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card. So you can potentially discard Hysteric Sign on 2 separate turns to effectively special summon this card 2 different ways, which is pretty excellent. And then obviously Sign will search us, Featherstorm, and all the other good stuff. That's pretty awesome. And you can also search Diabell Star in another way, through Wanted. Wanted is a very broken card. It says add a Diabell Star monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your Sinful Spoils spell or traps that is banished in your graveyard, except Wanted. Place it on the bottom of the deck, then draw 1 card. So usually what I do with this personally is I like to put original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye back in the deck. And the reason I do that is just because the graveyard effect is really good on this card, and I can wait till turn 3 to be able to activate this effect, then activate Wanted after to draw a card. But the thing is I kind of like to have the draw on turn 1 just so I have that extra piece of material, especially if I haven't normal summoned yet, because I typically leave with Diabell Star. It tends to give me better options later. Especially if I need to normal a Harpie monster, which I basically have to do. I can't really... There's no real way to special summon them in this current deck build, so this is my way of going about it. I could put Arsenal Falcon in the deck and then do something with that, but the problem is I would need 2 Diabell Star for that, or some other level 7 that makes it work. So it's not very useful. So it's just better for me to save the normal summon for the Harpies if I possibly can. Anyway, with that being said, typically we set original Sinful Spoils with Diabell Star's effect on field. So then we use the original Sinful Spoils to send a monster from a face-up card, that we control to the graveyard to special summon a level 1 fire monster from our hand or deck. And then on the following turn, because it's only 1 effect per turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target a Snake Eye or Diabell Star monster in our graveyard, and add a level 1 fire monster from our deck to our hand, then place the targeted monster on the bottom of the deck. So what's pretty amazing about this is that even if they called by the grave the monster that you target in the graveyard, because it says the add effect first, and it's a then effect, it doesn't matter. Even if you get called by on the monster just won't go back to the bottom of the deck. You'll just add the level 1 monster. So the part you actually care about is the first part. And if it said, and if you do, then, it would have probably changed this. Actually, correction. If the targeted monster on the bottom of the deck was the first thing that happened, then none of this would resolve, which is extremely funny. So yeah, they really did a good job balancing this deck for sure. It was a really good job on Konami's part. I'm sure they're working overtime on that. Anyway, another card we could also potentially set is Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake Eye, which we do usually get on the turn 2 onwards, where it says target a face-up monster on the field and place it face-up in its owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. So basically, you could think like the Valence monsters and how they push monsters backward. Basically, this is a generic card that does that, and it doesn't have to go in the same column or anything. It just moves them backward, which is pretty incredible. This is a really powerful card, really good against Omni Negates and stuff, kind of stops them in their tracks. This is a great card. And then, yeah, obviously you can also set Wanted, but we're not going to do that. And then let's say that we are successful in the original Sinful Spoils effect. Then we get to special summon Snake Eye Ash. This card will add a level 1 fire monster from our deck to our hand when it's special summoned. And then that will add the Poplar. Poplar, when it's added to hand, except by drawing it, you can special summon this card. If it's special summoned, you can add a Snake Eye spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So typically we add the field spell off this. Unless we already have it, then we go for the Subversion sometimes. Or we can go for original back in our hand at this point if we really wanted to. And then after that, we have, let's see. Actually, you wouldn't be able to get original off this if you did it in this exact order. So yeah, Divine Temple is typically what we add, or Subversion as the alternative. Anyway, after all that's said and done, you can use Ash's second effect, where basically you can send 2 face-up cards you control to the graveyard, including this card, special summon a Snake Eye monster from your hand or deck, except itself, so we special Oak usually. Oak on special summon will target, or on normal summon, will target a level 1 fire monster that's banished or in your graveyard, either add it to your hand or special summon it. And you'll also be able to chain Poplar's effect, since you'll also send that off the Ash. And because it's sent to the graveyard, you can target a fire monster in your graveyard, place it face up in its owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. So you basically get to place the Poplar into your back row, which is pretty awesome. So Oak effect will special the Ash, and then Poplar will go onto the field. in the back row, which means that Oak can send the Poplar once again alongside Oak for its effect, which is the exact same thing as Ash. So we send 2 cards of special a Snake Eye monster. In this case, we'll actually special the Flamberge Dragon. This card has a bunch of different effects. It's a crazy card. You can target a face-up monster on the field or in either graveyard. So mind you, either field or either graveyard. Place it face up in its owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell, so it also moves monsters backward if you want. Or you can grab something from the graveyard, which we will. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you target a monster card tree as a continuous spell on the field and special summon it to your field. Both Flamberge and the Divine Temple both do this effect, where they special summon stuff from the back row. In Temple's case, it's on your opponent's normal or special summon. In Flamberge's case, it's pretty much any time, because it's just straight up quick effect on your opponent's turn. So as long as it's your opponent's turn, it's just fair ball game at that point. Anyway, if this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, this is the part that's pretty incredible. You special summon 2 level 1 fire monsters from your graveyard. So what's great about this is at any point if this card's sent to the graveyard, you get to special summon 2 babies from your graveyard, which is pretty incredible. So you could basically at the point that you're at right now, so Ash is on field, Oak is gone, Flamberge is on field. So now you have 2 monsters. You can just link those 2 off into an IP or something, and then make 2 more babies come out, which means that you can make a link 4, which is pretty fantastic. So as you can see, this is a pretty crazy gas engine here, effectively. I spoke weird. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The last monster to talk about is Snake Eye Birch, which doesn't happen very often in the main combo, but it can come up. It's a pretty good card, actually. I think it's kind of underrated. So if you control a fire monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Mind you, that's also inherent special summon, just like the Bellstar. So it's not activated. And then every other effect is hard once per turn. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, so just like Flamberge, at any point during your opponent's turn, you can send 2 face-up cards you control to the graveyard, including this card, and special summon a Snake Eye. So it's exactly the same as Ash and Oak, but it's only during your opponent's turn as a quick effect, which is still very, very useful. It's really, really good. This is basically your alternative to place from Divine Temple's activated effect, which says when it's activated, you can place a Snake Eye monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard face up in its owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. Also, level 1 fire monsters you control gain 1100 attack, and once per turn, if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, like I said, you can target a monster card on the field tree as a spell and special summon it to your field. Mind you that you can only activate 1 of these per turn, so it's basically hard ones per turn for everything. But yeah, it's an incredibly powerful field spell. This is one of the best field spells in the game right now. It's super useful for this reason, putting stuff in the background and special summoning it. Anyway, so that is all the monsters and Divine Temple. We already talked about Subversion, and we already talked about Original. What have we missed here? We talked about Wanted. I think that's everything, right? I think I talked about it all. Yeah, that's it. So that is the main deck. Surprised it only took us 18 minutes to get through that. The sideboard, I'm not really going to talk about that much, because I'm going to be honest, this is kind of incomplete. I'm actually considering, instead of Ghost Mourner, putting in Prohibition, potentially, because of bricked hands and stuff like that, or, like, if my opponent interrupts me and I have Prohibition in my hand, I can try to, like, stop them if it's second, game 2 onwards, and I know what they're up to. It's hard to say, though. We'll see. I have some interesting tech thoughts in here that I'm not sure about, but Prohibition's one I've been thinking about, so we'll see. Anyway, right now we have 3 Ghost Mourner, 3 Nibiru, 1 Callby, 2 Lightning Storm, 3 Evenly, and 3 Imperm. Imperm's another one I've considered taking out, because it's not really, like, it's good, but it's, unless you're fighting, like, branded, and you don't Ash their branded fusion, like, Imperm is less good this format. It's not terrible, but I would argue this is the weakest it's been in a long, long time. So yeah, this is quite a unfortunate mishap here. Anyway, for extra deck, we already talked about Cyber Slash briefly, but yeah, we have Cyber Slash HARPIE Lady. We have Zeus. Come on, guys, it's Zeus. We have Inferno Flame Banshee. Basically, this is that Rock Xyz guy. I can't remember his name right now. It's slipping past my mind. Anyway, you can detach material from this card and then take a Pyro monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. In this case, we're going to always add it to our hand, which all the babies are Pyros, so that's pretty great. So you can use 2 Harpie monsters to make this if you want, so that's pretty awesome. Next, we have Lightning Chidori. This is one of the best Zeus targets ever, because effectively, it first, on summon, targets a set card your opponent controls, return it to the bottom of the deck, so this is a great way to remove some sticky traps that your opponent might have. It's really annoying. And then Once per turn, you can detach an existing material from this card and target a face-up card your opponent controls and return it to the top of the deck. So what's great about this is that it takes a face-up card that you know is going to be a shit draw, you place it on the top of their deck, then you Zeus wipe the board, and then now what happens is your opponent's like, oh, fuck me. Now I drew this crap card. I have no cards in hand. I basically lose. So this is a great card for that. Then next we have 3 rank 7s. Now, it might seem like an odd lineup for Harmonizer Gradiel to be part of this, but it's actually great. Dracosac doesn't really need an introduction, but in case you don't know, if you detach material from this card, it special summons 2 Mecha Phantom Beast tokens. While you control a token, this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. And if you tribute a Mecha Phantom Beast monster, which includes the tokens, you can target a card on the field and destroy it. This card cannot attack the turn you activate that effect, but that's okay, because most of the time, the reason you would use this effect is actually for skill drain, and a lot of the time skill drain might come up in Labyrinth matchups, and you can actually tribute itself, and because it doesn't, so because skill drain doesn't negate the activation, you can tribute the Dracosac in order to pop the skill drain and then be able to play on, so this is a pretty great card for that reason. Anyway, so that's that. We have Big Eye. He's a big guy. He's basically a once per turn, soft once per turn, permanent take control of that monster, which is pretty awesome. This card cannot attack the turn it's activated that effect, but that's perfectly fine because we just take whatever we want and then use that to attack if we want. That's pretty great. And then Harmonizer Gradiel. So this is going to take a little bit of explaining. You're just going to have to hear me out on this one. This is an incredible card. Like, this card is so good. Might be the most underrated card in the game right now. Hands up. Hands down. Easily. This card's incredible. So this card's attribute is also treated as each of its attached materials attributes. So, for example, if I have a Harpie Channeler and a Snake Eye Ash underneath this card, it's a light, fire, and wind, which is incredible. Now, you might be wondering, how do I have a level 1 and a level 4 attached to a rank 7? Well, first of all, Channeler could become level 7, but here's the interesting part, right? Is quick effect, in general, you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, semicolon. So now we're talking about effect. Detach material from this card, so that's for effect, not for cost. And if you do, attach that target to this card as material. So what's amazing about the fact that it detaches for effect is that if your opponent wants to chain an effect to be able to stop this Harmonizer Gradiel and it's a pop of some kind, they won't be able to do that if it's a fire, wind, or light at the time that I'm talking about this example. They would have to use like an earth or something, which is incredibly powerful. And what's super great about this part is that you can use this to yoink stuff that you wouldn't even think about yoinking. So, for example, you could do this to, let's say, steal one of the 2 Snake Eyes that are in the graveyard, so that Flambridge doesn't get its effect off. You can do this to take the Promethean Princess out of their graveyard, so they can't really special summon it and ruin your day. You could do this to take out the lovely Labyrinth that's in your opponent's graveyard, because it's really fucking annoying, and that deck can eat my ass. And then there's the Chandelier. You know, the Chandelier. You can get rid of the Chandelier because it'll try to add itself back to their hand, and you're like, no, I don't want you to have that back in your hand. I'm going to take it, which is great too because then Lovely can't pop this guy either or this girl. So this card is fantastic. And the reason I'm saying all this is because I forgot to mention, it can't be destroyed by battle with a monster of the same attribute, nor can it be destroyed by card effects with the same attribute. So again, if I'm a dark, a light, and a fire, you can't destroy this by battle or by card effects with a light, dark, or fire, which is just fucking incredible. So yeah, this card is amazing. And then obviously it can be a decent Zeus target, but I think Chidori's better. Anyway, that's that. And then finally we have Access Code Talker. I think this is more common in Master Duel because we don't have like the link for Salamangreat card, because a lot of people like to do Zealantis, but I kind of like Access Code better because it allows me to do the Snake Eye combo, and if I have one extra card, I can typically go for lethal, like more than exact game, with just the Snake Eye combo. So I don't know. I like this slightly better than Zealantis, but I get why Zealantis is more popular. It's a good wipe. And then we have Amblo Whale, of course. This is pretty popular. Basically, the reason why it's popular is it gains 200 attack for each Link monster in the graveyard, which is pretty decent. It makes it 3k if there's 2 of them, which is great. If this card is destroyed, you can target a Link 3 or lower monster in either graveyard, special summon it. So you can special summon like a Unicorn or an IP or even Hita. In my case, I'm usually going for Hita. You can even go for BLS, which is pretty great. We'll talk about him in a moment, the reason why I'm playing him. If a Link 3 or lower monster on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect while this card's in your graveyard, banish this card from your graveyard and non-target destroy a card on the field. So that's always a really great form of removal. And then next we have Appaloosa. I don't think I need to explain this one. Every single Fire King deck, or sorry, single Snake Eye deck is playing it. We'll skip over BLS for now. Let's talk about Hita. This is great if your opponent uses Ash Blossom or something and pisses you off. It's like, okay, I'll just take your Ash. I don't care. And we just keep playing, going on and on and on. Basically, you can make Link 4 through Princess that way. So that's pretty funny. Next, we have IP. I don't think I need to explain this one. And then finally, Nightmare Unicorn is pretty great. The thing about Nightmare Unicorn that's really good here is that it allows you to discard a card, which will definitely have a lot of cards in our hand. And then we can shuffle an opponent's card if we really needed to. And what's great about that is that it gives us a little bit more leeway for access code, because we are rocking a handful of attributes, but we will typically only get 2 pops for most boards because of IP and then a fire in your graveyard. So yeah, it's just helping a little bit more. And then we have Princess, of course. Everyone knows Princess because of Snake Guy, but in case you don't know, you cannot special summon monsters except fire monsters while she's on the field. Every effect is hard once per turn. During your main phase, you can special summon any fire from your graveyard. Any. It doesn't matter what kind of fire it doesn't matter. Any fire monster. You can special any of them. Link 4, who cares? Fuck it. Special it. It's fucking broken. If a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field while this card's in your graveyard, you can target 1 fire monster you control and 1 monster your opponent controls, semicolon. Now, here's the important part. Destroy them, which means that even if one of them leaves, you can resolve it as much as possible and pop the other one. And if you do, special summon this card. So this card is incredibly broken. And again, I think Konami does this on purpose because this card is way too much. It's also 2+ effect. It's a generic card. Like this is foul, guys. It's absolutely foul. Anyway, that's that. Now let's talk about BLS for a moment. Why would I play BLS? Here's the thing, right? It's really interesting. Is that if I had a Flamberge on field, another monster, and an IP on board, which I'm going to special summon through Flamberge effect, I can make BLS and make it untargetable and destructible. Now, who wants to target? If you think about it, a lot of decks in this format do like to target for card effects right now, especially Kashtira, which I don't really have an answer for in this list other than him. And you would think, well, why not Avermax instead? Or why not play Ghost Mourner in the main? And the reason why is because, well, with Ghost Mourner, it's only really for cash right now, to be honest. Like, it's not that it's not useful in other decks, but it's really good for time against Kashtira specifically. But with BLS, what's great about him is I don't require 2+ monsters from the extra deck, which means that the IP I'm going to special summon from the back row will actually be useful to me here, because I can't use it to make Avermax. It has to be special from the extra deck for that. And in addition to that, this still gives me an untargetable, indestructible monster that's really big. And Kashtira is going to have a really hard time getting through this without an Ogre. So I can just get rid of the Ogre if I absolutely need to, and then leave everything else on board. So this is a pretty good answer for the most part. The only thing that can really deal with me is Scareclaw Cash, other than the Ogre. But a lot of people aren't running Ogre anymore anyway, so I can kind of just get rid of the Scareclaw Cash if I want with the Princess. So I don't know. It's an interesting interesting card to say the least, but it's pretty neat. I am quite liking it right now. It's actually been doing me a lot of good results in Master Duel. Anyway, that is the full list. It only took us 28 minutes, a new record. But anyway, that is the full list. Let's get into the hands. Let's check out what we can do with the combos. Alright, now just to show you that I'm not just like picking random hands like crazy, we're going to start right off the rip without even it's going to be fully blind effectively. Let's see what happens. Let's see what we can get. Okay, this hand seems bad in theory, but it's actually not that bad at all. So with this hand, what I would probably do is I will go Small World. Now, let's check options here, just so you can see. And I'm going to go with Lady 1 here, because we don't really need that. It's kind of a bad card. And now we got this really nice Droll and Lockbird here, and we're going to click OK. And look at all the options. 9 matches found. That's insane. It could potentially even be 10. If I had Harpist in there, it could have been that too. Like, this card's fucked. This card's absolutely wild. So, in this case, we're going to go for a Snake Eye Ash. Actually, we're going to go for Diabellstar, I think. I'm trying to think. If I go Diabellstar, then I'll have 3 cards left in hand. I'll have 1 less. So I'm going to send the Harpist probably, although no, I can't really get rid of the Harpist. I might have to get rid of the Pet Dragon. And then I get to go 2 Harpie cards. Yeah, this is good. That'll do. So let's go with the Bellstar here. So we're gonna activate Small World. We're gonna banish this. We're gonna banish the Droll, and then we're gonna add the Bellstar. We could also just grab a Harpie, but we want to do the full Snake Eye combo and the Harpie combo at the same time. So we're gonna send this Pet Dragon. We're gonna special the Bellstar. We're gonna go effect the Bellstar. Now, obviously, I could have also special the Pet Dragon through normal summoning Harpist and then just not use the Egotist. But I would rather have that option of having 2 level 4s on the board and just do that and live my life. Where's the original? There it is. So we're going to go original. So we're not going to set that just yet. We're just going to normal summon first. Activate Elegant Egotist. We're going to special summon Lady 1. You can wait to do all of this because then if you get Nibiru, you at least have 2 monsters that you can mess around with. Summon or do whatever you want with, but in this case I don't really care. So we're going to do original effect. We're going to send the Harpist. So we're using this card's effect. We're special summoning Ash. Ash effect is going to add the Poplar to her hand. Then because of its effect, we're going to immediately special summon it. We're going to activate its effect to search a Snake Eye spell. We're going to add and activate Divine Temple. That's going to allow us to place a card into our spell and trap zone. We don't know if the opponent will be playing Snake Eye if we're going first, so in this case we're going to go for Flambridge, just to be safe. The alternative for this would probably be Snake Eye Birch, to be honest, because Birch is really good on our opponent's turn. We can just, like, send whatever we want to, like, special back a Flambridge if we want, or, like, another Ash or something. You know what I mean? So it's pretty useful for that. Anyway, we're going to go Snake Eye Ash effect here. We're going to send the Poplar and the Ash. And we're going to special the Oak from our deck. That's going to go effect targeting the Ash in our graveyard to special it, and then we're going to chain Poplar. We're going to place it into the spell and trap zone. So we special it. There we go. Now Oak has the same effect as Ash, but we can use this Poplar that's face up now to special summon Flambridge from our deck this time around. Let's find Flambridge. Where is he? There he is. All right, so that's that. And now we can link 2 into IP. Now keep in mind, if Channeler was on field here, that this would become level 7, right? If this was Channeler instead of Lady 1, it would become level 7 because of Flambridge being on field. So you could overlay her and Bellstar here if it was Channeler, but we didn't quite get that. But it can happen. It's happened many times before. Anyway, so now we linked into IP, which means we get to go Flambridge effect and special summon 2 babies. So we'll special 2 babies out. And then we can link 3. So link 3 into Promethean Princess. We'll go effect to special the Flambridge back. There we go. Link 4. Go into the Ambla Whale. And now we have lots of monsters here to mess around with. We're going to go effective Flambridge here. We're going to put the IP into our back row. And then during our opponent's turn, typically in our main phase, we're going to special summon the IP. We're going to go effect. And we can even link up to 4 to get the Appaloosa. So that's pretty great. We don't need to link 4 into Appaloosa here, but we could. And then you can still use Princess's effect to pop the Ambla Whale instead of Flambridge instead. But yeah, that is an option. So that's basically the combo. You got the gist of it. You can mess around with different ideas and stuff. Let's see if we can get a more different hand. This is kind of an interesting hand. In this case, I would probably send Birch for the Bellstar. But effectively, the combo is going to be roughly the same. We just go Perfumer, we'd add the Hunting Ground, which could be a free send, actually. So we'd have an additional monster on the field, effectively. So that's pretty great. But yeah, that's an interesting hand. But what we really would like to have is not this hand, I'll tell you that much. Holy fuck. I mean, okay, this can get us into Bellstar, because we can go Perfumer into Droll into Bellstar, so that is one way to do it. 1 for 1's not exactly the best. To be honest with you, it's almost better to have Channeler in this hand, which is super unfortunate. It's kind of a messed hand. If 1 for 1 or Subversion was another monster, like probably if this was another monster instead, that'd be pretty incredible. Okay, let me show it just for example. If this was, for example, an Ash, this would be an incredible hand because we would go Small World, Banish Snake Eye Ash. Banish Droll. Where's Droll? There it is. And add Diabellstar. Right? And then we send 1 for 1. Special Diabellstar. Go effect. Sorry, we're placing that. I can't. Okay, we're just gonna place it here, but we're not actually activating it yet. Although we could, though. I'm trying to think what is the best course of action here. It might actually be the best course of action, because the only other thing I could do here is I could normal summon Channeler. Go Channeler effect. Special Pet Dragon. This can give us a number of things. If we're going second, we can go Big Eye and steal something before we even go Diabellstar effect here. Or we could just make a Draco Sack and summon 2 tokens. Now, the tokens can't be used to send off of the original. But what's nice is we can use the tokens to make IP. So we're going to link the 2 tokens off, make IP. And then we're going to go original, send Draco Sack, and then we summon the Ash and we go off. Does that make sense? So now we basically skipped the step of summoning 2 monsters, and we're going to have a pretty crazy card here. Pretty crazy turn. So this will special this. This will go activate this. That'll place this. Then we send these. We get Oak. Specials back, and we get the placement. Placement goes here. Send these. Special to Flamberge. And then we go these 2. Actually, we don't even need to do that. That's just pure bonus. We just send the Flamberge and the IP. Make Princess. Flamberge effect. Summon 2 babies. Doesn't really matter. Attack or defense doesn't matter. Princess, we special Flamberge back. We go these 2. Make Ambler Whale. We go Flamberge effect. We place IP in the back row. And now we still have 4 monsters we could dick around with, which is pretty incredible. In this case, we could potentially even just make Appaloosa straight off the rip if we want, or we could go into like a Link 3. For example, we actually can make BLS with this, which is pretty great. So you could do these 3 and make BLS, which is pretty incredible. And this will effectively give you... This would actually give you games. That's pretty fun. But, you know, that you'd have to get through your opponent's board first. But still, it's something. If you're going second anyway, you might as well just make Unicorn with this and then use the Flamberge and make access code, because, like, who cares? You're going to have... Actually, no, yeah, you will have lethal, because you'll have at least 1 link in there. So, yeah, there you go. So that's pretty useful. You should have at least 2 links, actually. So, basically 2 ammo, although you ideally like to only use 1 ammo. That way, this is at 2800 attack, and then you have exactly game on board. So, anyway, that's that. Let's do 1 more hand, and then we'll call it a day, effectively. See what we get. Okay, this is an interesting hand. Because we can use this Ash, and we can get the Ash out of here. We could also use the Droll to do it, but I think I'd like to use the Ash here. So we're going to get rid of the Ash, get rid of the Droll, and get the Diabellstar. You know the drill. We could also alternatively just get Snake Eye Ash, but the problem is we would like to... Or we could get Poplar, and Poplar will also get us the... It'll also get us the original, and that will also allow us to keep the Droll in hand. But, yeah. In fact, let's do that just for the sake of example, just so you guys can see what it looks like. So we add Poplar, it goes Poplar. Wow, did it actually crash? Oh my god, that's so funny. I think that's the second time that's happened during hand tests. Is it bringing me back? Okay, cool. We're good. So we banished Droll. Where's Droll? There it is. And we're gonna add Poplar and special Poplar. Where's Poplar? There you are. Just add to the hand except by drawing it, so yeah. And then we're gonna go Poplar effect, we're gonna add the original. Original. We go original, we send Poplar, we go Ash, and then this is a chain block because we go Ash 1, Poplar 2. So Poplar is going to be placed back there. Mind you, we will not get the field spell this way, so that's kind of but it's not really that bad. Anyway, Ash will add us. We can add Birch off this, actually. That'll give us another monster, another plus. So we special Birch. And then we can send the Ash and the Poplar. Special the Oak. Where's Oak? There he is. Back to special, back the Ash. We can go Oak and Ash here. Special Flamberge. And then we still have normal summoned, just so you're aware. We have not normal summoned still. Make IP, Flamberge effect, we special 2 back. We go these 2 into Princess. Princess special back Flamberge. Flamberge place IP. Link 4. Ambler Whale, you know the drill. Right? And then, effectively, we're going to normal Channeler. Channeler effect, discard Channeler. Now we can special Pet Dragon, or we can special Perfumer. In this case, I would like to special. So we didn't discard Hysteric Sign at any points. We're not getting Featherstorm anytime soon. So it's probably better to go for the I know that you're playing Flamberge and I want to be careful play. In that case, we actually make Harmonizer Gradiel here. And that'll effectively protect us from the elements. So that's pretty good. And then basically on our opponent's turn, we're going to special IP. We can link off stuff if we want. But yeah, it's very interesting, right? It's very interesting. But yeah, hopefully you learned something about this deck and thought it was kind of interesting. Hope you enjoyed this video. Rate, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the future once I get a little more used to this deck. And we'll see how much it changes over the next couple months. If it lasts that long, we'll see. We'll see if it gets hit or not. But anyway, with that being said, I will see you guys next time.